We called R5. Dan brought the car back to the hot pit.
Yeah, what do you do in that moment?
First, Dan said, I think I spit the belt out, Without touching the car, I'm like on my hands and knees, just, looking through the bumper, trying to see if I could see the belt or the pulley spinning. And we could. Pump, I think, is still fine. But then I'm thinking, well, what the hell could it be now, We kind of got our tools ready. I grabbed the right, things that I needed. And then we tell Kevin when we're ready. And as soon as we touch, hands on the car, the timer starts for 5 minutes.
Lorette, give us a quick update. What's going on?
So what I'm hearing is that Daniel Stuckey had no power steering, but the belts were still on. Daniel, what's exactly the problem?
That's a good question right now. I was hoping a belt just came off, so it'd be an easy fix. Luckily, I trust these dudes. Hopefully, it's something that's quick, maybe a weird pressure bypass kind of thing. But just trying to play it safe because there's some really quick transitions here and a lot of walls.
And this car is lifted up. That's not where it needs to be. 20 seconds on the clock. I don't think this is going to happen for Daniel Stuckey. And I am seeing sans the graphics on the side. I think there were some shakeups there, as you were telling me. And it's got Kenda tires on it, but now it's got 2 seconds, and Stuckey has been doing a great job, and unfortunately that is time. But look at, still smiling, great attitude, but such a bummer for Stuckey.
Do you ever think if you were in the driver's seat, you'd be able to handle the pressure that comes along with all of this?
It's funny you asked that. So his pro car before the S15, he had S14.9, and he's like, do you want to drive the S14? You prep the car, you can bring it and drive it. And I was just like, this is a pro car, dude. So not a lot of teams have the budget to pay every single crew guy. I don't want that to deter you from doing it because I've done a few seasons now unpaid. To me, I'm like, okay, I spend 4 days here, like kind of a vacation. I'm working. But again, the experience and the knowledge you gain is priceless. Our entire car weighs 2,830 pounds, and that's the lightest car on grid. In Orlando, Daigo came up to Dan after a run, and Daigo was like, dude, your car rotates up to the bank different than any of the other cars I've driven with. He thought it was because of how light it is, I will say this, for anyone wanting to do FD, you gotta be ready to commit minimum 5 years. If you're just like, I'm gonna just do this for a season, chances are you're gonna get kicked in the nuts a couple times. I'm at a point with drifting where I'm like, whatever engine you get, as long as you can turn laps, and you get enough laps and the car isn't constantly braking, then it's a good swap. But I will say, as a guy who started with a really low power car, once I got double the power, you start to advance pretty quickly. It's worth it. You do gain a lot from having a little bit more power. But that's the thing, it's everyone argues that LSs are the most reliable, but I'm here to tell you, they're cool, they're great. They're not necessarily any more or less reliable than all these other engines out here because everything blows up.
Wanted this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey. Ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era.
Welcome back to the Circle of Drift podcast. I want to say thank you again for stopping in every single week for a brand new episode. Of course, this show is presented by SimHQ, where you can always save 5% off on your next upgrade with code Circle of Drift. But if you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, my name is Dawson, and here on the Circle of Drift, we interview some of the most interesting personalities within the industry to help you get the best insights, info, opinions possible to help you get into drifting. And today we are back at FD in St. Louis to hear from quite a familiar face, Behrad, on his JZ S13, helping out a lot of FD drivers and just more of what's going on within the industry. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get in the episode. Here we are again, back in Formula Drift, St. Louis, and we've got a familiar face if you've been around that long. Behrad, how we doing, dude?
What's up, dude?
Long time no see.
Yeah, doing pretty good. Yeah, I guess, we've seen each other a little bit, but audience has not. If you guys watched year one of your podcast, when it was not just you. Yeah. I did an episode back then in Tennessee, which was dope. And now we've been linking up at FD, and that's been pretty cool. You've been doing this whole booth setup, which is awesome. If you guys haven't been to FD, you got to come to any round that he's at, because this is such a professional, well-production setup with his whole doing a podcast on the road. It's pretty dope.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Trying. But tell me a little bit about why you're here, because you're obviously helping, you're crewing, all that stuff.
Yeah, actually, when we did our first episode, I was probably a month before starting my very first season of doing FD as a crew guy for a different team at the time, a prospect team, Rye O'Connor. But he was a local guy to me in NorCal. And I didn't really know him like we didn't know each other, but like we had mutual friends. So through that, I got the opportunity to crew for him. And then we spent 3 days driving across country to Atlanta together and got to know each other pretty well. And so that was my first season crewing in 2023 with him. And it was pretty cool. He called me up and he's like, hey man, like I heard you might be a good, mechanic to have as a crew guy, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to do this? And I was like, dude, I'm not a mechanic, bro. Like I built my car.
Wrong dude.
And it works, but like, I'm not a mechanic. And he was like, can you change tires and change axles? I was like, yeah. He's like, that's the only thing I ever break. I was like, cool. We get to Atlanta. I ended up pulling the transmission 3 times in the first day and like tearing the whole dog box apart and like trying to figure out what this noise was that we had. And
he's like, I totally undersold this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, first day. So like I got really comfy pulling a transmission in that car. And it's funny actually because after we went through the trans, went through the diff, went through the drive shaft, what was the issue? A bad axle.
No way.
I was like, oh, it ended up just being the axle, like you said. So I swapped an axle, did a bunch of other stuff first. But yeah, it was a good learning experience. And then through that season, I met a bunch of other teams and became friends with Stuckey and M-Spec. And at the time, last season, I ended up joining their team because Rai ended up stepping out of FD this last 2 seasons. And I really liked being here. So I was like, dude, I really want to do this again. I just need to, find another home, basically. So yeah, I ended up doing last season. I did just 5 rounds, like 8 rounds for pro, 4 rounds for pro spec. And I ended up doing 5 out of the 8. And then this season I decided to do the full season, all 8 rounds. And turns out it's a super big commitment and you're traveling so much. And it's, it's not just Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's like I'm flying out on Sunday, getting to where, either flying into whatever state we're going to or flying into, Oklahoma, which is where the guys are based out of. And then we'll travel, with the semi truck and we have an RV and stuff. So then we'll hit the road and drive to whatever track. Ends up being, like a week and a half total. And then you do that 8 times through the summer and you're like, whoa, I'm gone all the time.
I'm all in now.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, you've been traveling for this too. So
yeah.
It's really cool. It's a big commitment, but I've really enjoyed it. And I actually didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much because before I did the first season in 23, I was just not a really big FD guy. I didn't really watch it. The only reason I did watch it was LZ because I watched LZ on YouTube when I got into drifting.
Right.
And then he got into FD and I was like, cool, like I'll watch some FD, I know someone there, now or whatever. And then I did that season and I was like, yo, this is like kind of a crazy world. Like we're from the grassroots world and like the grassroots world of drifting is, like the pit parties and just like, it's always super fun and like people are helping each other and the goal is just go drive and get as many laps as you can with your boys. And like, I was like, FD is just competition and it's not going to be fun and it's just like race cars and these cars are not like our cars, and I was like so like stubborn about it. And then I got here and I just like immediately started having such an appreciation for race cars and like race car build quality and what goes into prepping the cars and just like the teams and how many people are involved and like the setups and people's like entire pit and just like I was like, yo, this is actually kind of cool. Like it isn't grassroots drifting, but it's still drifting and like I love drifting. So I'm like, you know what? I opened my heart a little bit and I was like, this is actually pretty cool. I like it.
Went through the same exact realization this year.
Yeah.
I've always kind of like, not that I looked down on FD. It was just, like you said, it just wasn't my world. And I didn't really care about it. Until I started coming. My first full FD was in Atlanta this year.
Oh, this year? Okay.
What a hell of an FD to pick for your first full FD. And, like, I totally understood it. You get the atmosphere of it at night. And, like, hearing those cars come down the track is a whole different experience than hearing some 300 horsepower SR.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'd probably prefer that any day.
Yeah.
But this is wild to experience. And it's something you can't quite grasp until you're here.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sure you've done this too, but like I've been to grassroots events back home and there'll be like one pro car or like pro-am level car will come out or maybe there'll be maybe like a couple of them and you'll see them and you're like, man, they're just loud and like they're kind of annoying and it's just a smoke show and like and I didn't appreciate it. And then I came here and it was like, yeah, the same thing. Like I remember my first time standing in the hot grid with 32 race cars and I'm standing by my driver and we're walking up with the car and it's just like, every car has like a gang of team members around it, crew guys, like someone's pulling logs, someone's like checking tire pressure, like people are like, kind of checking panels and stuff. And like, I was like, yo, this is actually kind of sick. Like these drivers just have like a crew of homies or people that work for them, and they just like, they run the car, they run the program, and like they're all race cars. Like, I don't know. And then I just started walking around the pits and just looking at like the build quality of the cars. And I was like, yo, this is like, it's definitely a different spectrum than where our cars are at, but there's so much that crosses over that I'm like, oh man, I need to go home and work on my car. Like there's so much I've learned where I'm like, I need to do this different on my car. Like this makes sense why it's like this. It's serviceable, it's reliable, whatever. And I'm like, I didn't do that on my car, So the learning experience has been amazing. The networking opportunities of just being here have been actually really cool. I've managed to lock down a handful of different sponsors that otherwise I probably wouldn't ever have like reached out to or known. But it's like you come here, there's vendors, there's teams, there's, sponsor, or there's like businesses and partners or whatever, companies here, and you start to meet, marketing people, and you just kind of chat it up. And like being on a team, they go, oh, what team are you with? Oh, like I'm with Stuckey, and they're like, oh, cool. Like, and then we'll just talk about parts or whatever. And I ended up locking in like a fuel sponsorship, shout out Fuel Lab, and originally Zach Nova sponsorship, shout out Zach Nova, and like it was really cool, man.
Look, we got to stop the podcast for a second because I know we're going through a lot of tires out there, and given you're here supporting the podcast, they want to help you guys out and give you 20% off on your tires moving forward with code CIRCLEOFDRIFT2. And on top of that, they're actually doing free shipping, which is just added to your cart. So if you're going to need tires soon, or maybe you just never tried the Zach Novas, or you just kind of want to stack up, I suggest you do that now while you can get them at a better price. But other than tires, let's get on back into the podcast.
So
you say 20%. Sorry, shameless plug.
20% Zach Nova. What's the code?
2, baby.
There you go. Stuckey is with Kenda, and I love Kenda, but I did run Zach Novas for like a solid season, and they're a great tire. So if you guys are thinking about getting some, honestly, the 300 treadwear tires I ran, amazing.
I know what you're talking about. Yes,
definitely run them. I've gotten a ton of laps out of them, tons of grip. In fact, my friend Sawyer, if you're watching this, Sawyer, he rode in my car for the very first lap with those tires, and he was like, and he's rode in my car a bunch. He's like, this is the fastest your car's ever been. And I was like, yo, this is insane. We're cooking,
I always say they're like almost the lifespan of an old Kenda with the grip level of, a Valino Ebisu or like,
Yeah, for sure. Good amount of grip, lasted enough. For me, I'm like, if a tire can get me close to 20 laps, my car makes like 280 horsepower or so. If I can get close to 20 laps, like I'm pretty happy with that. Anything less, I'm like, nah, I'd rather run something that can get me that much. But around that, it's like a pretty good margin,
Well, explain if we're gonna talk about like how many laps we're getting and stuff. Explain your car for anyone that doesn't know out there, especially after we've been talking shit about FD cars and all that crap. But
so my car is a S13 hatch. I did a 1JZ VVTi swap in it like 4 years ago now, and that was like a game changer for me in that car. It started off just like a dual cam KA, and then I went to an SR, God's motor, it was dope, but I blew it up in a year, like 3 events actually, and then I ended up going JZ route, and the dollars like per laps after I did that swap was like incredible. I just got to drive all the time. I did 2 drift weeks. We talked about that last time. I actually just did a 3rd drift week. I did drift week 10, and dude, it's so good. Like it's a stock 1J, stock turbo, stock ECU, stock injectors, and it makes barely under 300 horsepower, and like it's plenty to party. Like I think your car probably makes around there.
I think
maybe
it was
a little
making
more.
Close to about 350. I didn't dyno it,
Yeah.
which was part of the problem. But
Right. But yeah, man, it's like I'm at a point with drifting where I'm like, whatever engine you get, as long as you can turn laps and you get enough laps and the car isn't constantly braking, like then it's a good swap. You know what I mean? But I will say, as a guy who started with a really low power car, once I got like double the power, you start to advance like pretty quickly. You start being able to do more gnarlier stuff. You can throw faster entries, you can pull out of corners better, like blah, blah, blah. So it does advance your driving. Not saying you should start with a high horsepower car or whatever, but at some point when you do upgrade, like it's worth it. You do gain a lot from having a little bit more power, So I'm at that threshold where it's like right now I get really good tire life, I know that when I cross like the 400 horsepower, 450 mark, that's like where you start losing tire life for how much more power and fun it is. So like I'm kind of, this summer I'm doing a big refresh and I'm planning on putting injectors and ECU on my car and tuning it and getting, shooting for around like 360 horsepower just on the stock turbo. And like, I kind of want to incrementally go up. I don't want to just tune for 450 and then just be melting tires all the time. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to add, 80 horsepower and like see how tire life is after that. And like, 380, 360 horsepower is still plenty to jam with and like road course stuff or whatever. So yeah, I'm excited to do that this summer. I have a YouTube channel. If you guys want to follow along, it's Behrad Says on YouTube, and I'll be posting all that stuff, working on the car, doing, like I said, ECU, injectors, full chassis harness, and all that stuff. So it should be a good time. But again, back to the whole like commitment of FD, it's like you're gone every 2 weeks. You're gone for a week and a half, and so like starting a project on my car is tough because I'm like, all right, I got to remember to order these parts, and then I got to remember I got to start doing this, and then oh, I'm gone for a week, come back. Where did I leave off? What was I working on? I got to order these parts now. So it's a little tough, but again, the knowledge and the networking opportunities here is totally worth it because that's all stuff that I take back to my own program or whatever, and so I enjoy it a lot. And then, like I said, like just meeting other teams, learning from other crew guys. Like I'm always on that mindset of there's always people smarter than me. Where do I find them so I can pick their brain, and here is like a great place. Every team has like some incredibly smart people, whether they're tuners or fabricators or just builders in general. Like you can learn from anybody out here. So if you guys are like interested, because people ask me all the time, like, how do I get into crewing and stuff? For me, like it was kind of just, mutual friends or whatever, but going to an FD round, meeting teams, talking to drivers, talking to crew chiefs, you just kind of like insert yourself a little bit. Hey, I'm interested in doing this, would you guys have any opportunities? Can I come intern,
How should you not approach? I get so many people that tell you, yeah, sure, go approach people, go talk to these teams, go talk to these crew guys, just make the relationship. You'd be heavily surprised how many people just can't make the relationship. They don't know how to actually approach someone.
Right.
So what do you mean?
I would say as far as times to like not approach a team is when you walk up to their pit, they got 5 crew guys jamming on the car. Like maybe it's not during a battle or between battles or whatever, but they're obviously like working, they're busy, maybe not the best time to try to wave them down and open up this big conversation of crewing, right? But there's a lot of downtime too with FD. So there's going to be times when you just see crew guys chilling in the pit, their car is prepped, they're ready for whatever, and they're just kind of hanging out, or maybe they're just cleaning up some tools or whatever. It's a great time to just come up and just introduce yourself and kind of let them know like, hey, I'm interested in maybe, getting into this or crewing, like what steps could I take? Are you guys looking for any, interns or crew guys, extra crew guys? I will say like a huge percentage of the field doesn't pay crew guys. And that's pretty normal. Like budget is like everything with FD, as with just even for us with drifting, right? So not a lot of teams have the budget to pay every single crew guy, and so I don't want that to deter you from doing it because I've done a few seasons now unpaid, and like the experience and the networking is totally worth it in it, in its own way. And so if you can take the time off work to come out for a week, and you can do it for less than a week. If you just fly in, fly out, you can make it like a 4 or 5 day trip, so it's not as bad. But yeah, just expect that like you may not get paid, but your expenses usually are covered. Most teams will cover a crew guy's expenses, so they'll pay for your flights and your food and your hotel or whatever. And then it's like, to me, I'm like, okay, I'd spend 4 days here, like kind of a vacation. I'm working and it's like long days usually, and you're kind of doing stuff all day. But again, the experience and the knowledge you gain is priceless, especially if you're into drifting, if you have your own car, if you do this or you want to do this. If you want to do FD, you'll hear this from tons of drivers, but they always say, go crew for a team before you get yourself into prospect.
Learn what the fuck you even need to do.
Exactly. Learn about the whole setup, learn about the scheduling. There's kind of like a thing where FD is a little bit cutthroat, and so like they don't tell you all the details of everything that you need to know as a new rookie driver, right? So like they don't necessarily hold your hand through where's the driver's meeting and where do I get the schedules and where what time is autograph signing and all that. They send the info out. It's your job to kind of like manage your own program and your team and know when to go to these things and where things are and what you should and shouldn't be doing, you know? And so crewing is a great way to learn all that stuff. Like if I ever did want to do professional drifting, I'm so thankful to have been a crew guy for a few years now because I feel comfortable here. Like I know where things are. I know the people. I know the FD staff. I know the guys to not piss off, and I know the guys that you can ask for help or questions about certain things, and that goes a long way. Especially coming in as a rookie, like not knowing a lot of that stuff adds another layer of complexity and stress to the whole situation. And so like by eliminating that, by having been a crew guy, that helps a lot. Or at least like if your crew has guys who used to crew or have crewed before for other teams, you know, so they have that internal knowledge. It goes a super long way. So again, if you guys are thinking about being a crew guy, it's super fun, man. It really is. Like it's a lot of work, and I'm always like totally cooked by the end of the week. And by the time I get home, I need like a whole 2 days of just recovery. But it's so worth it, man. Again, like everything that I've learned, the being around all the race cars, seeing how everything's, seeing how differently people build the cars and what works and what doesn't. It's honestly, if you love drifting, but you think you don't love FD, come to an FD round, and like it changes your perspective completely. And I just learned this because I haven't really been to a lot of like other motorsports stuff aside from drifting. I guess it's like not that common to have the pits be fully open for people to walk around and look at cars, you know?
Yeah,
and I just kind of recently learned this, and I'm so like used to it because FD's like the only thing I've really done.
You go to a Grand Prix race or something like that for, you know, you got to have VIP passes, all sorts of shit. Yeah.
So I think it's totally worth it to just come to a round because you really get to come in and walk around and talk to everybody. Now, I will say, like, there are teams that are, like, on a really professional level and maybe their cars are roped off and, like, they don't really want people going right up to the cars and whatever. And that's, you know, that's totally their choice. That's fine, you know. Our pit, our car's always out. It's right there. You can, I literally right before this interview, I was, like, answering a bunch of questions for a couple of guys who were like, what's the engine setup? What's the transmission? Like, what do you do that, you know? So, like, I love that, though. I love being able to just chat with fans and, like, teach them about stuff and, you know, like, get them interested in drifting. And a lot of times they're like, oh, I really want to do drifting, but I haven't. I don't really know where to start. And I'm like, start with a 350Z or start with an E chassis.
It's always a go-to answer, baby.
Yep. And then I'm like, you know, just go to your local events. Like for me, when I bought my car, I didn't know anybody around me that was drifting, but I took it to a car meet. And there was like a couple of other S chassis that I could tell were drift cars. And so I just parked next to them and then just like handshake, like, what's up, you know, meet them. And then boom, I like found out about the first event and then street shark the car there with a couple dudes I just met, you know, the weekend before. And like, that's how you get involved in the community. You really got to kind of put yourself out there and like, don't be shy. You know, I think the drifting community is so welcoming. And like, yes, there's toxic stuff that happens, whatever. But like overall, as far as motorsports go, like people aren't like on a high horse with drifting, you know, especially at the grassroots level. And like even here at the FD level, like other teams help teams. Like, so we actually just got knocked out of our 32 battle, and we unfortunately like car was completely fine. And in the burnout box right before our 32 battle, the power steering pump seized up. And it was just one of those things. It's like it was working completely fine. There was no hint at anything going wrong. And then just like that, it just grenaded the gear inside the pump, sent metal through the whole system. We called R5. Dan brought the car back to the hot pit. And it's kind of intense because you're not allowed to touch the car until Kevin comes by with the 5-minute clock.
Yeah, what do you do in that moment? Because obviously the car's sitting in front of you. Like you're trying to observe everything and see what all needs to be done before anyone touches.
Exactly.
Like what it...
Yeah, so like in this situation, the car came back and first, you know, Dan said, I think I spit the belt out, you know? So he's on the radio telling me, like, check the belt, see if it's still on the pulley under the car, if you could see it flopping around. So without touching the car, I'm, like, on my hands and knees, just, you know, looking through the bumper, trying to see if I could see the belt or the pulley spinning. And we could. It's like you can kind of see through the bumper. I was like, dude, belt's still spinning. Like pump, I think is still fine. But then I'm thinking, well, what the hell could it be now? You know. And then as soon as we were ready, we kind of got our tools ready. I grabbed the right, things that I needed. And then we tell Kevin when we're ready. And as soon as we touch like hands on the car, the timer starts for 5 minutes. So we literally just pop the hood open. And luckily, like I have my 3 crew guys and then Austin Mata's guys next to us. They're helpful too. And they came over and like, so everyone was kind of like hands on. And like I said, that's like the cool thing about this is other teams help each other. They just want to see you get out there. We had a battle with Trenton Beecham. I guarantee if we were pitted next to him, his guys would be helping us trying to fix our car because no one wants to just win a battle like that. And Trent even came over after and was like, that's not how I wanted to win this, And so anyway, we pop the hood open. We're looking at the pump. It's spinning. We shut the car off. We start taking the belt off, and the actual pulley is seized without the engine spinning.
Dude,
like I couldn't spin it. And so we start jamming to get the pump off, and I have a spare pump, but it was in the trailer. We never go through power steering pumps, so I didn't bring it to hot pit with us. Yeah. And so we send one of the guys, jamming over there on the scooter or whatever to go get it. And by the time he left, it had already been 2 minutes, so we only had 3 minutes left.
Oh,
and
wow.
man, the time goes so quick. Like
I was about to say, it'll take you 3 or 4 minutes just to get over there,
exactly.
over here and back.
Yeah.
Either way.
So he got back with the pump right when the timer ended, but it was one of those things that even though we got the pump, even if we had the pump, you got to pull the pulley off the old pump. You got to press it onto the new pump. You got to take the we have like a different like restrictors inside the pump for flow, and like I have to switch the restrictor out. The pump that we have as a spare is a brand new one, so it's not necessarily fully set up. It's a learning opportunity. Now I'd like to order a spare pulley and get the backup pump fully set up, ready to go. That way, if this ever happens, like 5 minutes is just enough time that you might be able to do it, but then it's like, you got to re-bleed the entire system. You got to pour all new fluid in, and then at that, it's like, I had metal through the whole system. The whole rack has metal fluid in it. The lines have metal in it. So it's like a risk. I could have gotten a pump on and then it might have lasted just that battle, but then it might have grenaded the whole system again with the metal shavings in there. And then it's like, well, I don't have a third pump, Then it's like scramble around. Who runs a KRC pump? Who's willing to sell me a spare pump,
Or would have done all of this while he was going into turn 2.
Right. It could have just, died immediately.
Yeah, and then he's flattening the car up against the wall.
And like there was the quick discussion of, do we just run it with no power steering? And at a track like this, when you got, going from outer 1, transitioning into outer 2, and the judges don't want to see you decel before the transition. So you're coming in 4th gear, fast as hell, towards the wall, you transition, then you slow the car down. If he doesn't get his rotation because no power steering, and he stuffs it into the wall, like that's way worse,
Oh, yeah.
And so it was like a judgment call, like, do we have parts to fix the car if he did stuff the wall? Yeah, for sure. But like in a 5 minute, so, and we used our 5 minutes. So it's like, it was just a huge risk. So, but it happens, man. And like, it hurts. It's a gut punch. And I was in the trailer licking my wounds for a while, and it sucks, man. But like that happens. That's racing, and it's one of those things that's like unforeseeable. The pump was fine. I literally topped off the fluid last night. I checked the fluid this morning. It looked perfect. And then in those practice laps, it started eating the pump. And like,
it's all these tiny little details that people don't notice especially coming down to like the pro spec level, very budget programs. All of the stupid shit you have to sort out in order to get to the point where you have a fluent-ish running program. God, you're hundreds of thousands of dollars into it at that point.
Yeah.
And it's like, when at what, if all of that is laid out to someone, it's crazy to see how people still want to continue going for the sport and continue to, strive to be a champion, and knowing maybe they don't know. Yeah. Maybe they're just farting in the wind hoping it works.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both, man. Like, I think it's one of those things where you got to have short-term memory with stuff like this, because there's more rounds, right? So it's like one round can go bad, but there's more rounds. And yeah, I'm sure the drivers do often have those thoughts of like, is this worth it? What am I doing? The car keeps breaking, whatever, right? Lucky for us, like our car is really good. And like for the most part, it's very rare for us to have like a big failure, but it happens. And it's kind of just about how you react, afterwards that sets the tone for the season or the next few rounds or whatever. So for us, like, I'm gonna pull the car in the trailer, I'm gonna swap the pump, clean out the system, swap the rack, like, I'm gonna put it back together, and like, we'll be ready for next round, you know. It's unfortunate, especially like for us, we're actually in 10th place for points overall, so we're doing kind of better than we've ever done in pro, and that's what makes it the bigger gut punch, is because now we get 0 points for this round because we didn't get to do our battle, you know. And I thought we had a good chance of winning that battle, so like, it's unfortunate, and like, depending on how things turn out for the rest of the guys, like, that's going to shift us in points, obviously, and hopefully these next 3 rounds, if things can go well, we still have a chance of staying in that top 10 position, you know. But it's a gamble, and you know, it's just one of those things. Like I said, Dan, you know, he has a good attitude about stuff like this. Like, it happens. He knows it happens, and you know, so we kind of just have to shake it off. You go sulk for a little bit, you kind of come up with a game plan, and now we know more for next time. I'm going to have certain things done differently. I'm going to maybe, like I said, have the pump with a pulley already ready to go. So if this happens, like, there's a higher chance that I can do this in 5 minutes, you know? So it's all a learning experience, man. I will say this, for anyone wanting to do FD, you got to be ready to commit minimum 5 years. That's what I've learned, is like, if you're just like, I'm going to just do this for a season, chances are you're going to get kicked in the nuts a couple times, you know? And if you're only planning on doing 1 season, like, you might have a bad season and then you're out, you know what I mean? But like, if you tell yourself, I'm in it for the long haul, 5 years, then you just see how well you can do in 5 years. Every year you're going to grow, the car's going to grow, your crew's going to get better, your program's going to get better in general, and like, your chances get better. So like, commit for a few years, you know, don't give yourself this hard cutoff of, I'm just going to try a season. And there's plenty of guys in pro spec who have tried just a season, even in pro. But in my opinion, like, the way that I've seen things unfold over these last few seasons that I've done this, anything can happen. And so like, you got to be prepared for a few seasons so that you can catch that momentum and find that perfect build and find that good program and these little odds and ends that stack up to really make this whole thing what it is, you know. But you know, like I said, you gotta have a good attitude about it. I'm still hurting, you know, and like, I'm the crew chief of Stuckey's program, so like, for me, I take it very personal that I'm like, what could I have done better? Why did I let this happen? You know, and I'm kind of beating myself up. And I'll do that for a little bit, but I'll remind myself that like, things happen and it's racing, and race cars are you put so much stress on these cars. Like, Grassroots is, you know, we already know how much we break stuff in Grassroots. It's so much harder here. The cars are just wound up so much harder. And so like, things die, things break, you know, and you just got to be ready for it. You got to be ready to have a good attitude about it and be ready to get it, you know, ready for the next time, and just come out fresh slate. All right, we got a new round, we got a new top 32, anything can happen. We just do our best to make sure the car's ready, and, you know, Dan does his best to make sure he's doing what he needs to behind the wheel. And, you know, hopefully, like I said, in these next 3 rounds, if we do well, we can keep our momentum and staying in that top 10, you know, range, and that'll be a killer finish for us this season.
That'll be epic. I would say he needs it. That's for sure.
Yeah. For sure. And, you know, it's like, this season's been one of our best seasons in terms of like momentum. We won seeding in Long Beach to start off the season, and that was incredible. That was like my first time being on any kind of podium and like doing like a ceremony,
cool.
You know, and like, so that was really cool. And then we ended up winning our battle and got into top 16. And again, that was my first top 16, and like, being able to go out on the track with the top 16 cars, doing the ceremony, it's cool, man. It's just like, it feels really cool. You're just like, dude, this is like this big sport. It's the professional level of our sport, the sport that we love, the sport that we've dedicated our lives to. Like, this is the professional level, and it's cool to be out here doing it, you know? And yeah, so we had really good momentum. And, you know, like I said, we wound up in 10th place by round 5. So I'm hunting for that podium again. I'm going to do my best to have the cars dialed as possible for these next, you know, few rounds. And I want to stand on the box, man. I want to be up there. I want to get champagne in my face and do the thing, you know?
Now look, let's take a break from the podcast really quick, because we can't always have these nice comfy chairs at events when we're doing podcasts. Now I have to think about not only keeping myself, but the guests comfortable as well while we're sitting down for such long episodes. nothing has kept the guest and I comfortable enough other than the Viper chairs. They use an extremely thick cushion so my ass doesn't get sore after 5 minutes. And I don't always have the best posture, so the placement of the backrest helps me with a lot of my lower back pain. And even when we have the XLR cables for these microphones just laying on the ground, I've never had an issue with the casters rolling over them or tipping me out of the chair. But if you guys have been considering getting your own, Viper's hooked you guys up with $50 off on your next Viper chair. So I'll leave the link in the description for that. And without further ado, let's just get back into the podcast. Do you ever think if you were in the driver's seat, you'd be able to handle the pressure that comes along with all of this?
You know what? It's funny you asked that. So Dan, I actually moved into his house in Oklahoma for 6 months over this off season. And while I was there, his pro car before the S15, he had S14.9. That's what he started Pro 2 with, and then moved into Pro with that car. Same setup. It's a S14.9, 2J, dog box, quick change, all that. And we were going to Hallett Motorsports, or Hallett. It's in Oklahoma. I don't know how far it is from you, but it's a road course. It's like a massive road course. It's got like elevation change, super fast, like straightaways and huge sweepers. And so we're taking the cars there for an event, and he's like, do you want to drive the S14? And I was like, are you serious? He's like, you prep the car, you can bring it and drive it. And I was just like,
fuck up.
This is a pro car, dude. And like, I've driven my car at 280 horsepower, like, you know, and so I was like, of course I want to do it. So I prepped the car, I pulled the trans, I swapped some dog rings out with Casey, and like, we got the car all prepped and whatever. And it felt cool. I was like, I'm prepping my car for this event, you know, race car, like a real race car. And we went out, man. And let me tell you, like, every single word of shit that I talked about pro cars and pro driving, I ate it, dude, because it is such a different level of driving a car like that than our cars. It's like indescribable. Everything, it's still drifting, but every input is so massive. And every input has such a huge reaction in the car. And so like in my car, if I make a couple steering inputs, it's like, whatever, I'm just settling the car. In that car, when you got 130 mile an hour wheel speed in fourth gear, every little correction is massive. And the car, like, you can upset the flow of the car so easily. So like the first couple laps out, I just was, you know, kind of trying to get used to the car, just drive into a couple corners. I hate to say this, handbrake entry into a couple corners, dump the clutch, kind of feel out the car.
We all do it.
Yeah,
if anyone says they don't on first lap, dude, you're a fucking liar.
And like, dude, I'm driving like a, you know, a six-figure car, so I'm like, I don't want to crash the car, I don't want to break the car. So so we go out and I do a couple, like, you know, practice runs and stuff, and then I'm kind of feeling like, okay, I'm ready to send a lap on the layout that they had. And dude, like, first, second, third, fourth, like within a super short run up, you know, and you're just hucking the car. And it's like the first corner that we hit at that track is like a blind uphill to a crest downhill to the right.
Ooh.
And dude, like coming over this crest blind, I've never driven the track. I'm moving faster than I've ever drifted before, like in drift, and like coming over that crest, and you're just like, you feel the weight of the car offload, you feel the steering get light, and then you're just kind of like hammered down. And dude, the thing just makes so much power, and it's just like,
it's like a rocket ship.
It's a rocket ship. And like the biggest thing, like there are people that have 500, 600, 700 horsepower cars that drive, but I think the thing that makes the biggest difference is, one, tires. Like obviously we run grippy tires, and then two, most everyone in the field, on as far as their rear suspension goes, they have like an active toe gain in the rear. And so with active toe gain, the car, as it squats, as you put down more you know, throttle, it's picking up so much more grip. And so like the best way I can describe it is, in our cars, the fastest point of any track that we drift is the initial entry. That's when we're going the fastest. That's when we're going to feint in and really have a bunch of momentum. And then the rest of the lap, you're kind of losing a little bit of speed, you know, because you don't have a run up anymore. In these cars, the fastest part through the track is when you're hammered down through the middle of the corner, and it's just going faster and faster. And so like everything is just happening so fast around you. And like I said, every input makes such a big difference in the car. And so I just remember the big sweeper that I hit in fourth gear. It was like, I'm throttling, and as I just increase throttle, I can feel the car picking up speed, and I'm just not used to the car picking up, and I'm already going
like
fourth
fast.
gear. It's so
just
fast.
Instant.
It's so insane. It was like it was a feeling I I have trouble describing to people, because it's like, until you drive one, you just really don't understand like how much different it really is than our grassroots level cars, you know? It's a handful, man. So shout out to all the FD drivers. You guys are madmen. I don't know if I could see myself doing this, mostly because like cost is just insane. It's astronomical. Like, and so like, and then you get events where you break the shit out of your car and like you got to pay a bunch to fix it and replace stuff. So the cost is like a huge thing, but the pressure and handling these cars and what the judges expect of you with the ways that they set out these tracks and have the zones, like, it's demanding, dude. It's hard. You know, it's not easy by any means. And so it's really cool. And like, it would be really cool to experience it. But again, I just said, don't commit to only 1 year. You got to commit to like 5 years, 4 or 5 years. So like, do I see myself committing that much? I don't know. So like, I don't know if I get to just do this one time. You know what I mean? But it's in the back of my head. Every season, every round that I come out, that little itch gets a little bigger, where I'm like, maybe I'll prep a second chassis and start making it competitive. Like, so I don't know. I have a hatch shell at my house that I've like considered chopping up and making it into a competitive car. But it's just a lot, man. There's a lot that goes into it.
I will say, I still, even after coming to a bunch of FD rounds this year, I still have no competitive edge for it. I just don't. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I got all of the competitive drive out in baseball, and just like,
that's,
I love the style of it.
I actually compare it to people like kids who like grew up doing like moto or go-kart or even sports, like whatever other kinds of sports. If you grew up as like a competitive kid and then you ended up getting into cars, and then like I understand why people get so addicted to professional drifting, because if you were that kid who was addicted to competition, this is now your adult competition. And so like, you just really enjoy that competition aspect of stuff, you know? And like, maybe for you, like you kind of got burnt out from it or whatever. And I'm sure that happens. But I look at some of the teams here and I go, you were just that kid who was like really into sports and really into whatever, maybe motorsport that you did as a kid, maybe not. But like, if you just liked competition, this makes sense. If you're into cars and drifting now, this makes sense. I see the appeal of wanting to be part of the biggest, level of professional drifting in America, or maybe, I don't know if FD is bigger than other stuff, but
if you got the balls in the deep pockets for it, I mean, go
you need
for
the
it.
pockets, you need the balls,
That's the
you
only
need the
thing
crew. And shout out to all the crew guys, man. Like, there's so many teams here that just have like friends that take time off to come do this, and like family, and there's so many teams that have their whole family here. Actually, our team, Dan's cousins from Minnesota, came down here with a truck and trailer, their camper filled with smokers, and they're competitive smokers, and so they've been smoking ribs and wings and burgers and whatever else all week for us.
Steal some food later?
Please. No, seriously, tonight we're having burgers. Please come by, both of you guys, come have some food.
That's hilarious.
But it's like, family gets involved and stuff, and it's, even when you lose, it's still fun. You're still here. You're still doing it, And like I said, it sucks and it's a gut punch, but like, you just got to shake it off and be ready for the next rounds, But it's honestly really cool, man. I've enjoyed being here. I've enjoyed doing it. I'd like to continue doing it, Then again, the networking and all the other things that come with it is so cool. And the drive that you get for continuing to build your own car. If you're into drifting, and dude, like a lot of the crew guys that I've been meeting over the years, like a bunch of them drift, like you would think so, right? And so a bunch of them drift and have cars, and a lot of them are just grassroots cars. And so like, you meet a lot of people just like yourself who are just grassroots dudes who didn't really care about FD, but then they somehow fell into it, and now they're like, yeah, I like doing this. Like,
how
do
we end up here?
Yeah.
It's all a daydream.
You gotta like wrenching though, sometimes you gotta really, last season. Sweating.
You gotta like sweating a lot.
Every single round has been like miserable weather.
Sweat and rain.
If you're not wet from sweat, you're wet from rain. Like, it's insane. Yeah, man. I think this whole thing's really cool though, and I'm stoked to see you out here doing this. I like watching all the episodes and listening to everyone's perspective about everything, and it's honestly just a really cool community, and it's something I look forward to every couple weeks for the next round. And then you start stressing as it gets closer, and you're like, oh God, here we go again,
Hey, yo.
But it's, whenever I'm here, I'm like, this is it. I love this element. I love being around it. I love the people. And then it kind of feels, for us, it feels like we're on tour, because we have an RV that we sleep in. So I have my little bunk bed, and I just like, I'm like, I'm on tour. I'm traveling the country doing race car stuff. Like, it literally can't get better, dude, So I love it. It's a big commitment, and it's tiring, and you're beat afterwards. But just being able to be a part of something like this is really cool. Like, I want to be able to look back in 20 years and go, remember when I was a crew guy on a professional racing team? You know what I mean? Like, it's cool. I like it.
At some point, it's got to die out, though, right? Because you got to get back to driving.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, like, this is, just to be, like, preference, this is good to gain experience.
Yeah.
But crewing is never going to be a sustainable career path. Let's just say, for right now.
Right.
Well, within the next 5 years or so, I don't think it'll ever get to that.
Right. And it really comes down to the teams and what their budgets are. There are teams that have full-time employees, year-round. Salary, maybe not salary, but like they'll be full-time. And so there is opportunities to be 100% dedicated race car mechanic or a crew guy and like be able to make a living off of it. It's rare, right? Because it all comes down to who's got the budget to pay an entire employee for an entire year, versus just I'm going to pay you for each round or potentially not pay you, So there is an opportunity there. I don't know if it's something that I'm like gunning for necessarily. But, the opportunity is there. And like you said, I mean, I do want to get back to my own driving, and my own driving has slowed down a little bit over the last couple years. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily because of doing crewing with FD. Life stuff happens too. But it does definitely take, there's been tons of events that I wanted to go drive, but they conflicted with FD rounds. And so I'm like, I chose FD every time, and so there is that aspect to it. But I don't know if I could work out my life in a way where I can commit to 8 rounds and the time that it takes and still run my own program and have my own car and be able to go do my own drifting. Like that's the ideal lifestyle for me, for sure. Yeah.
You gotta bring the car out here.
Dude,
East Coast.
I've thought about after I do this big refresh, like I said, Dan Stuckey lives in Oklahoma and he's got like a big shop and stuff. So I thought about refreshing my car, making sure it's dialed, and then towing it out to Oklahoma and kind of setting up base there. And then I could kind of travel to a bunch of those cool tracks around that Midwest South area. Like I really want to drive Mid Pond. I really want to drive Polecat. I really want to drive, what's that one, those 2 kids and their parents? Driven Luck, dude, so cool. So I've definitely thought about just bringing my car out for half a year with my truck and trailer, and then just setting up home base in Oklahoma.
You're always welcome to just store it at my house for any time that you need.
Yeah, because I think you're like 10, 12 hours from Oklahoma, aren't you?
Yeah, it's just about a little over 10, I would say, 10 or 11.
Yeah, that would be cool. And like, I appreciate that. And other people that I've met here, other crew guys, have been like, yeah, I live here. You could totally come bring your car and store it. And it's just cool, man. Like the community is still very similar to what we know with drifting, the grassroots community. So that aspect is really, really cool.
It's just like the whole, our toys never go away. They just get bigger. It's literally the same thing. Yeah. Like it's just.
This is the most expensive version of drifting.
Everything's dramatic here.
Yeah. You know what is really cool though? Being a driver where like you have a crew, and like this is something I hope to experience one day. You pull up after you burnt off your tires and other people jack the car up while you're still in it.
Yeah, you're just sitting in there watching the live stream.
And they take your tires off and they put new ones on and they set the pressures and they check the car and they put fuel in it and then you just go back and drive. I'm like, yo, I feel like if I ever just had that, I'd feel like I made it, I don't know. I have some friends who drive Grassroots. They like will bring other friends to just come hang out at the event, and then their friends will do that. They'll like pit crew for them. It's super cool. I've never really had friends that come out to like help me with my car necessarily when I'm at a drift event, but that aspect's pretty cool. Just like you feel like you made it. You're just like, I'm a race car driver. Like I'm a professional race car driver,
Yeah.
It's cool, man.
Well, not to like try and jump you off Stuckey, but if there was ever a team that you would love to work for in FD right now, who would it be?
It's funny you say that because our other crew guy that I brought for this round, Jay, we were talking about that, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, I haven't ever put thought into that yet, so I wasn't sure off the top of my head. But what we did decide is the only teams I would feel comfortable with are other Jay-Z teams. I'm such a 2J. Well, I'm a 1J guy, but I'm such a Jay-Z guy, and I feel so much more comfortable around the engine that like, if I was in a team that it had a different setup, like I just wouldn't feel as confident, And so for me, I feel like I want to do a 2J car, or a 1J car. There's like 2 guys that run Actually, I think there's only one guy that runs a 1.5J, but my first season with Rye, he had an LS, supercharged LS in a 350Z. So it's like a chassis that I'm not super familiar with. Like, I know my way around it, but I don't own one, right? And then an engine that I've never owned and I've never worked on. And then when I joined these guys, I was like, S chassis, JZ, that's my jam. Like, I know that well. So because of that, like, we were actually trying to think about this. I don't think there's really any other S chassis JZ cars in pro. There's Mike Power, who's not here this season.
Oh my God.
And I don't think there's any other S chassis with JZ. And so I would have to switch chassis if I switch teams. I would have to switch to like, I would switch to an E46. I thought about like Dylan Hughes. I'm friends with those guys. He's 2J, E46. I know enough about those chassis again to feel comfortable enough. But yeah, it's like no other S chassis 2J team. So I'm like, I don't know, unless Mike Power comes back, maybe.
Yeah, everything else, I guess, is E36, E46, or
right.
just BMW in general.
And like, obviously there's the aspect of like, oh, well, if I join a team that's like a different setup, I'm going to learn about a different setup, which is cool. But also like, this is pretty serious. So like, I don't want to be responsible for grenading an engine or totaling a car because I didn't know what I was doing with that chassis or that motor setup. You know what I mean? So like, there's that apprehensive feeling of like, I want to do what I'm comfortable with. And granted, like, I'm sure I could join a team that's a different chassis and a different engine and like they would help me along the way. But if I'm doing it and like, let's say a team is like going to pay me to be a crew guy, I would want to go to a team that I feel the most confident with out the gate. So for me, it would be a 2JS chassis, or like I said, a 2J with one of these other chassis. So that's kind of where my head's at. And honestly, like you know me, I'm a big JZ guy. I love the JZ. So like, it's an engine that I will also say this: every single LS car here is so damn loud. And when they fire their cars up, it's so annoying, dude. And so every time we fire our car up, I'm just like, oh, listen to that baby purr, dude. That 6-cylinder inline,
it's just a
like
nice
hums.
tone to it.
It's so
good.
It's
not obnoxious as fuck.
It's not obnoxious. So that aspect is really cool. Not blowing out my ears being around the car I'm supposed to work on all the time. Dude, like a lot of times we'll pull into the pit and like we'll jack the back up and I'll get under the car while it's running to like check certain things. And like I'm right under the exhaust and it's a downturn and it's just like screaming in my face. If that shit was a V8 exhaust, bro, like I could not be under there with no ear protection. Like it's insane. So
blow your eardrums so quick.
100%. The other thing that I love about our team is that we run the smallest tire out of all the pro cars because we have the lightest car in FD. So our entire car weighs 2,830 pounds, and that's the lightest car on grid. And so we run the smallest tire, which for me and my crew guys, we don't have to lift 315s on these massive wheels all the time. We just got these little nine wides and a 265 or a 255 on there. And, that's super
crazy,
manageable.
It still keeps up just fine,
It keeps up, man,
too.
yeah. It's actually really cool that, like, there's been very few times where we felt like we were getting outgunned by the tire being too small. But it's give and take. Because the chassis is so light, it doesn't take as big of a tire to achieve the same amount of grip and speed. But the flip side of it is, because the chassis is so light, there are other aspects that you have to get used to. The car rotates differently than a heavier car. The car slows down differently than a heavier car. It loses momentum faster than a heavier car, right? So there's all these, like, there's give and take for having the lightest car, but it's also very light on the drivetrain. Like, we don't blow axles, we don't grenade diffs, we don't grenade transmissions. Knock on wood somewhere around here.
Yeah, for real.
But like that's a testament to not putting as much strain on the entire drivetrain because the car's not as wound up and as loaded up trying to spin these massive, super grippy tires with all this weight on top of it, you know? So
you must have suspension geometry pretty dialed too.
The car's,
like all the mechanical grip.
Yeah. No, the car is pretty set up. We run full PBM on the car, so front and rear PBM set up, the limit brake kit. And like I said, the rear end is the same as the car that I drove, his old pro car. It's got the active tow, and we have anti-squat that we can set into the car based on like ride height and stuff. We run PBM coils on the car as well. And like geometry-wise, and like I will say this, S chassis, in my opinion, maybe I'm biased, but like the geometry makes the most sense to me. And so like it all kind of just works really well together. And like I said, yeah, we generally aren't feeling like we're out-gripped or outgunned by most cars that are on bigger tires than us. I mean, we've had battles with Osbo running like a 305 or a 315 Nitto last season, and we lost against him, but it wasn't like we couldn't keep up, you know? It was actually a pretty good battle. So, like, it's actually pretty cool that the car can be this light with such a small tire and still keep up with a completely opposite end of the spectrum car, you know?
I bet you could pick that thing up from the rear bash bar.
You probably could, dude.
You've got to be able to.
I mean, it's got the quick change, and obviously the rear rad setup is back there and all that, but it's got a way smaller fuel tank. We only have like a 5 or 6 gallon fuel cell.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. If the fuel tank's empty, you got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Drop an extra 40, 50 pounds.
Yeah.
No, but it is super light, and actually, in Orlando, Daigo came up to Dan after a run, I think in practice they had together. And Daigo was like, dude, your car rotates up to the bank different than any of the other cars I've driven with. And he thought it was because of how light it is, you know? He was just saying no one's car in front of me when I've chased has snapped up to the bank as the way that your car does. And so there's all these little intricate details of the car being lighter where it acts differently, you know? Which also means, like, if you just, you know, if you got to kind of get used to driving a car that's that light, you jump in a car that's like another 500 pounds heavier, it's going to feel different. It's going to rotate different. It's going to, you know, pick up speed different. It's going to slow down different. So there's something to it for sure. There's been a couple of other drivers that have come up and talked to us about that. And like Casey Cole from M-Spec, he built the car. And so like they'll ask him kind of like, what are the details of like making it so light, you know? And they're kind of thinking about like building a light car, you know? So like Odie was one of them, you know, he came up and asked us about it and was like, I'm maybe considering trying to build a light chassis and trying that out, you know? So there's something to it, but again, it's give and take.
That's
so
cool.
Like there's good parts to it, but there's downsides to it too. So yeah.
Well, damn. All right.
Yeah.
Cool chassis stuff. I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Speaking of Daigo, though.
Yeah.
Did you hear?
Yeah.
What?
I did.
That's crazy.
You know what's weird is first we heard that he, what was the first rumor that we heard? No, never mind. We heard a rumor that Ryan Literal broke his ankle. Rumors spread like wildfire in the FD pits. I don't know how it even starts, but anyway, Ryan didn't make it either, but the rumor somehow was that he broke his ankle, and we were like, what? That's not what happened. But Daigo, yeah, like all of a sudden, we saw his car go out in practice, and I hadn't seen it at all. And so it went out for the second practice, and he did a lap, and he just did a solo lap. And we were kind of like, that's weird. And then Dan was like, maybe I haven't seen him. Like, I heard he got held up at customs. Maybe this is his first lap out. And so they just let him do a solo lap or whatever. And then we come to find out that it's Hiroa Manoa's dad piloting the car. Yeah. And so basically, Daigo got caught up at customs. Something with his visa paperwork was not right, and they didn't let him in. They turned him around and sent him back to Japan.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story, but he posted all about it. You guys can check it out on his Instagram. But they turned him around, and so I'm thinking to keep the sponsors happy, they wanted to get the car out for some sort of like demo. Yeah. And so they worked it out with FD where they have Hiroa Manoa's dad piloting the car. I think he's going to do it before top 16 ceremony or after top 16 ceremony. He's just going to do like a demo lap or a couple laps.
What?
And so they gave him a few practice laps yesterday so he can like get used to the car. And then today, yeah, he's going to go out and do a couple laps. Yeah.
That's so insane.
And he's like he's won FD Japan. He's got an FD Japan license, blah, blah, blah. So like he's a well, known driver in Japan. So, yeah, it's honestly super random, but kind of cool. But I do feel bad for Daigo. It sucks to not be able to make it, to the next round. So yeah.
The damn visa stuff. Gotta have it in order.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
It's gotta be confusing.
I bet. And he even admitted, he's like, I think I just messed up on the paperwork and didn't understand it correctly and blah, blah, blah. So he took accountability for it, but it still sucks. Yeah.
Oh. Well, you mentioned Literal. What actually happened there? Yeah,
Ryan, I guess they had some engine issues after New Jersey, and basically I guess they had tried to fix the car, or as they dug into it to prep it for this round, they realized there was more wrong with it than what they had thought, and so the problem kind of got bigger, and basically they just couldn't get the car together in time to get it here. And Ryan actually flew in and made the drivers meeting, but he couldn't make it to the first practice. So like, if you don't make it to the practice, like you can't, even if he got it ready by today, because he missed practice and stuff, he wouldn't be able to compete. So it's super unfortunate. I've come to like Ryan over the last couple of seasons of getting to know him, and you know his whole RB versus Jay-Z thing. So initially I'm like, like I'm not a fan of Ryan, but like no, he's actually really cool, and like I love the RB. I think it's super dope, dude, and I like that he's like committed to it, and it sounds awesome. And like but you know, it's just one of those engines that's definitely a lot more finicky, and you're trying to, you know, run it at 900 or 1,000 horsepower. Like it's a lot to ask. So he's
had a lot to ask out of any engine. I don't like. I mean,
honestly,
I
man.
understand it's always been RB issues with him, but like first few years it was machine shop issues.
Yeah,
totally get that.
And like, dude, I've come to learn that it's like, you know, there's always the battle of LS versus Jay-Z guys, right? And like, I've come to learn that like everything blows up. Everything blows up, man. LS's blow up, VR's blow up, B58's blow up, Jay-Z's blow up. Everything blows up. RB's blow up. I think I named everything. Everything blows up. And it's just one of those things. Like, I've seen brand new LSs get put into a car, go on the dyno and blow it up, you know? But I've seen that happen with Jay-Z's too. So like, when you're asking so much out of these engines, things are gonna fail. Things are gonna go wrong. You know, there's a lot to it. You know, it's and it's one of those things where drifting, you know, is like very demanding on engines. It's not like a lot of other motorsports. So like, not only are we revving the hell out of the cars, but we're sitting on rev limiter for 5-10 seconds at a time, and you're asking a lot from the engine, you know. So like, just things happen, man. So I've become less of an LS hater. Just like, normally I'm just like that. But now I'm just like, nah, they're cool. It's just not my taste, you know.
Totally respecting LS, but I do like to make the jokes.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like everyone argues that like LSs are the most reliable, but like I'm here to tell you, they're cool, they're great. They're not necessarily any more or less reliable than all these other engines out here, because everything blows up. Clip that. Everything blows up.
Yes. Literally the only thing that makes them more reliable is that you could go buy one off the curb for $200 and a case of beer.
Yeah, exactly.
You're fine.
It is pretty cool to walk into an auto parts store and walk out with an LS head.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's not something you get to do with a JZ, but you know, Toyota does make JZ blocks, brand new GTE blocks you can buy from Toyota. So like, that is pretty cool. It's spendy, but
you get a fresh one, though. Price.
Yeah.
But well, hell yeah, dude. What do you got coming up? Other than all the FD stuff, what's something special you got coming?
Honestly, I feel like the most special thing I have coming up is I am driving an event in November called Super D Matsuri. And if you know, Super D is hosted by the Animal Style guys, Julian, and he typically, for the last number of years, he's just been kind of hosting one event every year. It's Super D New Year's Eve. It's local to me in NorCal. And so I go drive that every year. And this year they decided to do more. And so they held a Super D Day 1 back in June. It was a skid pad event, but it was like kind of the first event of the season. And then they announced that they are going to have Super D Matsuri, which like back in 2016, they held a Super D Matsuri at Grange, now AVS. And they had like Naoki come out from Japan, and like all these other big name drivers came out. It was like a super cool like 3-day event party, just like crazy driving. Like you know that type of driving, like that's what we love. So like it was really cool, and like that was right when I was first getting into drifting, and I didn't really know anything about all that. So now that it's like resurfaced, and he's like, I'm doing another Super D Matsuri, I'm like, I cannot miss this event. And so it's at Grange. It's in November. It's a weekend event. I'm just trying to like fully get my car dialed and refreshed for that event. So like I've taken most of this season off from driving, and I'm just kind of stacking parts, trying to work with sponsors to get certain parts that I need for my car, and doing just a big refresh. One of my sponsors, Wrap Spec, he's going to rewrap my car and like new livery and all that. And like, so I just want to get the car like super clean and dialed, and then go and absolutely destroy it at Grange with some of the craziest drivers.
I love that.
But the cool thing is there's dudes from New Zealand called C's Garage. They're like these badass dudes from New Zealand, two brothers, and they have super sick S chassis with SR setups in them. Very like, you know, Kansai style, B-knuckle setup. And so yeah, their cars are currently at this moment on a container across the Pacific Ocean getting shipped to the U.S.
That's so sick.
And so they're linking up with Animal Style, and they're going to go drive Final Bout in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And then they're going to drive to SoCal for the November event for Matsuri. So that's like the biggest thing I have on my book is just like get my car ready. I'm doing a lot to do. I have a lot to do to my car in like a super short amount of time. So it's going to be a push for sure. But I just want to get it super dialed and reliable and know that it's going to like work all weekend. And, you know, I'm just really like excited for this event. And then pretty much the rest of the year, December, there'll be Winter Jam at Sonoma Raceway in NorCal. That's an event that like I try to drive as often as I can. It's like a really big event. A lot of pro guys come out, a lot of grassroots guys come out, but they always have like thousands of people there spectating and stuff. And
Nice.
Sonoma Raceway, they end up using like 4 sections of the track, and they run 4 different layouts and a skid pad. So you get like a bunch of options of what you can drive. So that's really cool. And then right after that event will be Super D Matsuri or Super D New Year's Eve. So that's kind of what I'm planning for the rest of the year. Super D Matsuri, and then Winter Jam, and then Super D New Year's Eve, and then maybe like a private skid pad day somewhere in there with my team. But yeah, kind of making up for a little bit of lost time. I haven't driven a lot over the last couple of years, so I'm excited to.
Some good events to make up time for.
Yeah, finish out the year strong. The end of this month, though, my other homie right here, Jay, he's going to a private skid pad day that our buddies are hosting.
Yeah.
And they're all like, you know, trying to get me to come drive. And I'm like, dude, my car is like in the middle of a refresh right now, so like I can't. And so he just built a really badass E46 with a turbo M52 in it. Took it to the dyno, made 600 horsepower like on the first pull.
Damn.
It was crazy. So he's going to take that car out, and he has just like a beater E36 or E46 330 coupe, and that's kind of been his like, you know, car that he's kind of just done a bunch of seat time with. And so he was like, you could drive my other car, and he's like, just buy a pair of tires for it. So he just prepped it for me, and yeah, so at the end of this month we'll get to go drive that, which is shout out to you, dude. I love you. Thank you.
That's awesome, man.
And shout out to all of my friends and all the random people that have let me drive your cars at events. I am such a scumbag, dude. Every time I go to an event and I don't have a car, I just walk around like a lost puppy with my helmet and my gloves in my hand.
Oh, hell
and I'm just
no.
like, that's a cool car. Can I turn a lap in it? You know? And I've managed to drive so many people's cars, which is so cool.
Who's been your favorite car to drive so far?
That's a good question. Hold on, let me think real quick. I've actually driven his car before, and I did really like it, but it was in the rain, so it's like hard to compare. So I will say his is definitely in the running. It's an E46 with SLR. Yep, SLR. And just like stock power, you know. But I've driven my homie JMO's old car, which was an E36, and I ripped that a few laps at a skid pad, and I honestly had such a blast in that car. I have driven some like kind of gnarlier stuff. Oh, shit, dude. I guess if I had to pick a favorite, though, it'd probably be Dan's old pro car, because that was just such a crazy experience.
Yeah.
That was like on a different level, though, compared to like all the other stuff I've driven. But I've driven some cool stuff. I drove like a homie's Bug-Eye Subaru with like a STI engine swap and a transmission. And he let me take it out at the skid pad, and I'm like, anything I need to know? And he's like, nah, it's solid. And I'm like, cool. I go out and I drove it like I drive my car. I feint entry with a clutch kick, snapped an axle, and I like drove back, and he's like, what happened? I'm like, I think I broke an axle. He's all, did you clutch kick it? And I was like,
Bruh,
yeah, bro, I clutch kicked it. Yeah, so sorry, dude. But yeah, so that was a cool car, though. Like, it made really cool sounds, turbo, and had a wastegate, and it actually, like, surprisingly, he had like done all his own steering and knuckles or like angle setup on it. It really drove like an S chassis, which was really bizarre. But yeah, it felt so similar to an S chassis. It was really cool. So that was a good car. But yeah, I've driven like E chassis, 36s, 46s. I've driven other like S chassis with like SR swaps, KAs, KATs, super stock, no bushings even done to the car. S13s where you're just like, oh, this is a boat, dude. And then like more, you know, setup cars. I've driven a bunch of 350Zs. Yeah, I would say a favorite though would have to be the 14 Pro car. Like, it's just so wild, dude. Like,
that's crazy.
I turned 8 laps, I turned maybe like 6 laps, went through like 8 tires and probably like I don't know, 15, 20 gallons of ethanol, Ignite ethanol. Like, not cheap, dude. Shout out Dan. I love you, bro. He let me drive and use his tires and his fuel. So it was really cool, man. It was a really cool experience. And like, I'm so glad that I got that experience because, again, like before that, it was hard to wrap my head around like how gnarly it is to drive these cars. And like, there was a time when like in my head, I'm thinking like, just do this, just make the car go here. And then now I'm driving and I'm like, oh, it's really hard to make the car do that because everything's happening so fast and like every adjustment is so gnarly. Like, so
you realize how
relaxed
guys. Your reflexes are.
Exactly, man. It's
I'm
crazy.
Like, dang, I'm slow.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, I'm gonna let you get back over there. I know that you were out and everything for the weekend.
Yeah, we're out, but I do have to put a new pump on the car. We're gonna flush out the rack and put a fresh rack in it. And luckily, we have a lift in the trailer, so that's super nice. So I'm gonna go get it up on the lift, and we'll start jamming on it. I think this helped me, heal from my wounds a little bit. So thank you. I was feeling kind of down. You texted me, and I was like, of course he wants to do this now when I'm in the trailer crying in the club. So, but no, I feel okay now. It's like I said, you just got to shake it off, and we'll be ready for next round. So, are you doing any of the other rounds?
No, probably not. I don't know if I'll make it to Utah or.
It's kind of far.
I'd like to make it to Long Beach, but if I do that, it'll probably be just showing up, enjoying the event. Every FD I've gone to, I've been working. So
yeah, it would be cool to just hang out, dude.
Yeah.
Well, come to our pit, dude. Grab some food. We're gonna have a bunch of food in a little bit here. So when you're done, please come by. We're just like right by Sim Magic.
Cool.
So,
yeah, I'll probably take you up on that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for watching, and love the podcast, dude. I've been literally watching since day one, so love to see that he's doing this still, and it's grown to what it is, and helping the Grassroots community, Grassroots heroes. So, hopefully I can get my car out towards your side of the country soon, and we'll turn some laps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, dude.
Tight. All right, dude.
Go enjoy it. Don't work too hard on that car.
Thanks.
What another great episode this week. And obviously, if you made it this far, you're one of the OGs of the podcast, or maybe you're a new one. So thank you for sticking around this long. If you did enjoy it or learn anything new out of the episode, I just ask that you consider subscribing and turning on the bell notifications. But other than that, don't forget we do have merch on the site, circleofdrift.co.
To the ceiling. Trust no bitch, can't catch no feelings. I've been taking long flights from the Bay to Ibiza. Hit home runs, I'm a ball like Jeter. I just want 4, then I leave. I'm a young pop star, call the boy Justin Bieber. Got a little money if you want, I can teach you. Whole life a movie, you can watch it in theater.